Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lizard Brains podcast. I'm your host, DJ Allison Drini. I'm joined by a man who's dodging fans in the background of his webcam, Tom O'Gorman.
Holy cow. I just had an avalanche in my apartment. Can you I'm going to ask a question with a long enough answer to fix that in a second, but how's it going?
It's going okay, Tom. Hey, I did not skip a beat during that intro. I saw the chaos happening and I just kept it going. Professional.
You nailed it.
Professional. Yeah, I nailed that. I did not nail this weekend, though.
No? Oh, well, okay. Um, I'm going to let you preface that while I fix that for 10 seconds.
Okay.
But I have a lot of questions about this weekend, so don't do any big details. Just kind of start where I know. Okay,
Okay.
ready?
Yep. All
All
right.
right, here we go. DJ, how was your weekend?
So this last weekend, I flew out to the Las Vegas Pro Solo. It's actually my first time ever doing like a fly and drive for not anything, but for autocross. And it was I've never drove an Elantra N before, and I was really struggling with it. But overall, like I think the event was really cool. The courses were a little weird, but we'll talk about that. Anyway, so I flew out to Las Vegas. I brought Christine with me. She did hiking while I was doing autocross stuff, and then we would do Vegas stuff after, and it was actually a lot of fun. And when I say Vegas stuff, that means just spend way too much money on
Gambling.
subpar food.
Lots of like inappropriate things we can't talk
immoral
about.
immoral behavior.
Immorality.
Yeah, I
Deviant behaviors.
I gambled zero and I drank zero alcohol. Very great Vegas stories coming out of DJ.
I think that puts you on their wanted list.
Like the facial recognition, like in casinos, is like this guy. Oh, I did do something a little naughty at Vegas this weekend. So yeah, so parking's really expensive, but if you go to Treasure Island,
God, yeah,
and tell them that you're gambling, they let you in the parking lot for free, and we didn't gamble at all.
you say
Ooh.
I'm here. You show up with like $7 in singles, but you fan it out to look like a lot of money. You're like, I'm here to spend all this.
All of this.
Yeah.
Ooh. I lied to
know
them,
that they gave
and
away
they bought
free
it.
parking. I knew they gave away free alcohol and free food sometimes. That's a good hack.
Yeah, Treasure Island, everyone. Hopefully nobody
What
from
did you
Treasure
say?
Island. You just drive in, and then they go hotel or casino, and then me and Christine complete teamwork. This is how you know that I should marry her. We both dead faced the dude right in the eyes and went casino at the same time. We both said it at the same time. So it was very believable.
I love that. All right, so I got back to my chair when you were talking about how the courses were kind of weird. They're not symmetrical out there, right?
No, they're not.
Real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, trigger warning. We're going to have a little bit of autocross talk because DJ autocross this weekend.
Yeah. Also, we're going to be talking about rules at some point. I'll give you like a 5 or 10 minute skip warning. So,
by the way, we've never had feedback. People don't like to talk about autocross. We just assume
I
we're autocrossers.
I was telling people at there's a lot of listeners at the Las Vegas Pro. So everyone who said nice things about the podcast, I appreciate you. And
cool.
And I think I was talking to Bill, who's the guy I drove with this weekend. It wasn't his car; it was Theron's car, Theron and Charlie's car. They were driving something else, but they had the D Street car there, so they invited or they let me and Bill drive. And previously, I honestly, Bill's in the audience right now, but I think I saw the name Bill Zur, but I've never interacted with Bill before. Good people. Bill's a good people. Me and him, it was like a collaborative team effort. He drove great. Like Bill crushed it. He probably should have won. Like it was he was close. He was in the noise. I really wasn't in the noise. I was kind of struggling with the car, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But the courses were a little weird because they were honestly, like we had the correct tool for the job because it was like deep third gear autocross courses. And it was like a lot of acceleration. And the Elantra N that we had was dual clutch transmission, 300 some horsepower, whatever that thing makes. It has the push to pass button.
Whoa.
Tom, we got our whole strategy down between launch control and push to pass. It's going to get real nerdy.
Know.
So we, the launch control, if you're rolling, it only has a 2-minute, like, cooldown timer, but if you're sitting still, it's 5 minutes. And there's some, like, in between something there that, like, maybe the timer goes down quicker and it only lasts 2 minutes if the car is rolling, but if you're sitting still, the timer ticks down, like, twice as slow, basically, is kind of the way I was framing it in my brain.
What? Wait, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean? I got you there was too many numbers
Did
too
I
fast. I
did
need
I
to
lose
sit
you?
down.
The
Yeah, no, I'm sitting down. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Spoiler, he was sitting down the whole time. So,
Yeah. So there's a launch control that has a what does that mean, cooldown time? When
cooldown,
you
so you can
after the time you use it?
yeah, like, you can use it, and then a little bit later, you can launch it again. And me and Bill, we were, like, trying to figure it out because, like, both of us were like we literally Tom, we had the owner's manual open, and we were trying to figure out how the car works because it was new to Thayron and Charlie as well. So, like, if anything, like, they were getting value out of us driving, like, us graciously driving that car because me and Bill were, like, trying to lizard brain the
Graciously.
car.
Yeah, that actually that's really fun. I like that.
So me and Bill were trying to figure this thing out. He had the owner's manual open. I'm Googling stuff. We're like trying to like figure out how the car works. So, because we wanted to know the details, because there's like a push to pass button and it actually does something. You do feel it. And, uh, and then launch control, because if you didn't do launch control, the car like was 3 to 4 tenths like slower off the line. Like,
Oh, wow.
yeah, like, the way it would leave the line, like, the way the clutches would grab when you would, like, floor it in first gear was very inconsistent, so you had to leave a lot of time on the light. And then also, um okay, people are making fun of me for saying graciously. I was saying that we were gracious for driving the car. Jesus, guys.
I know, that's what we're laughing at you. We were just such good Samaritans to come into Las Vegas and drive his
That's
car
not what
for
I
him.
meant, though. That would be
I
ridiculous.
know.
By the way, if you're like, "How are people interacting with the podcast right now?" There's a link to our Discord in the description. Come hang out with us when we record.
Ooh. Okay,
Anyways,
so there's a cooldown. Basically, you use it at the line, and because Pro Solo is rapid fire, you have to like know that the cooldown time between launches. Is that what you were basically getting at?
yeah, and most of D Street, which was the class I was competing in this weekend, was co-driven. So there was only 4 when we were at the back of the line. So like really you could have ran like as fast as you wanted. Like you could hustle back and run and like but the car literally wouldn't give us launch control. Maybe only like 2 of the runs it would give us launch control. So
Yeah, yeah.
for
Ooh.
safety, me and Bill were driving back very slowly because it's a very busy paddock and we don't want to, put anybody in risk. Um, and then we
You were out doing delinquency all night,
and then yeah, yeah, it's just you never know. I was out stealing parking from Treasure Island. So, uh and then we we would make sure to very rigorously check the tire pressure on every tire before we'd go, and then we would have launch control for all of our runs. If we did it any faster than that, you would go to activate it, and it would say like conditions not met. And like one time, Bill, he went up to the line, it was conditions not met, and it was like literally 2 or 3 on the countdown, and it was like active launch control
Ooh.
can be activated, and he's like yes, and then he launched the car right, like that's how close the timing was. It wouldn't be an issue if there was more than 4 cars that were, like, running through the line,
Yep.
because you would sit there for a second.
I think time trial and autocross is unique where you're competing in such factory vehicles at the base level, the entry level classing, that I had a similar problem with the NSX where it wouldn't allow me to turn all the traction control stuff on if the tire pressures were lower than 28 psi on the TPMS. But my target pressure for driving that car was 28 psi. So it would literally be like I would have to air the tire up past where it would turn the notification off, then turn traction control off, then turn them back down. It's
No
like
way,
these cars are so smart for what like we're doing motorsports with them without modifying them, and they're so smart. They're trying to get around what we're doing.
yeah, that's that's silly. I mean, come on, Tom, it's a PSI of pressure. You can just run 29 and not have to deal with that?
Well, it was the system seemed sensitive. Otherwise, yeah, I would. But it was like if it detected it even going trending down, it would immediately like trigger it.
Oh, gotcha, okay. So you had to be very careful with how
Someone
you
thought around
booted it off.
even my hack for it. Yeah, I had to like double hack.
Yeah. That's funny.
Just like you guys did, you had to drive really slow. Okay, so the that makes sense with the cooldown. And then the turbo button is like a 20 psi, no, 20 foot-pounds of torque boost.
Whatever it
Is that
was, it
right?
just the car would go a little bit faster. So there was like on the left side course, we would push it right away. And on the right side course, there was a hairpin where you would just accelerate for a really long time out of it. And that was the obvious place to use it there.
Interesting. Okay.
So there was like obvious, so it wouldn't last the whole run because it was 20 seconds and the runs were like just over 40 seconds or just under 40 seconds if you're Bill. And uh the so it
Still
wouldn't
so
last the whole
fast.
time. So you just had to use it like sparingly.
That makes sense.
So, we were literally figuring this
Interesting.
out while we were walking the course. We're like, "You think this is push to pass?" Like, I don't know." Like, we were brainstorming together. It was actually really fun. Um, I was originally gonna be driving by myself. I'm really glad that, Bill, got to, or I got to, drive with Bill. Um, I'm trying to get Bill to come out to an East Coast because he lives in, like, the Northwest. I'm trying to get him to fly out to do, like, WDCR, like, Pro Solo or, like, Toledo Pro Solo or something like that. So, everyone listening to this who knows Bill Zurr, please, peer pressure him into flying out east so I can have my rematch against him when I'm in a rear-wheel drive car.
What is yeah, so how was that showing up driving with someone new? Like, getting a new teammate, learning their system, what's he used to, like, what how was that?
I think we meshed pretty well, but it was definitely because normally I'm driving with Peter, right? The only other person I've driven with that in autocross uh, that wasn't Peter was Ito last year when I first bought my FRS. And then we sufficiently murdered the front bumper on the FRS. So like that's my other co-driver experience. So I think it was me, by the way. I th- Ito, do you remember? Ito's in the chat. Ito, do you remember if it was me or you that killed the grill on the car? I'm not. I don't entirely remember.
You know, you can blame him and we'll never know. Just say it's him.
I think it
I'm
was
kidding.
me. We were like going like 50 or 60 and hydroplaned and just like center punched a cone.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, and then the grill popped out. But my like 2 weekends ago, my dad went crazy with zip ties and like drilled like little holes and like stitched the thing back in. So like that,
That
it
right
is
there.
it is never coming out unless you get like some wire cutters. Then I guess it will come out. But yeah, I just really struggled with. I don't think I've ever done that many transitions in a front wheel drive car before. I was thinking about this like, basically the whole weekend, it was, like, plaguing me. I'm like, normally I pick up cars really fast, like, I'm not picking this up. I'm like, I'm kinda driving like a heathen. Like, I just I didn't feel comfortable or smooth or anything. It just felt like chaos, and it probably looked like chaos in the car. I hit my first cone in, like, a year, like, with the front bumper. Like, normally I just hit them with the side or the rear of the car. So,
Yeah.
um yeah, it's just it was absolute chaos, and I think I was getting to the same thing because you sent me a message because I told you I was struggling, and you sent me a message and just said, "Back everything up," and I think I was already kinda getting there, but, like, you gave me that confirmation to be like, "Okay," and because I at by the end of day 1, um, I kept playing it through my head, and Bill had videos, so I was watching the video, and I'm just, like, looking at what I'm doing wrong, and I'm just there's too much weight on the front of the car when I'm trying to get it to go through these transitional things. And
Yeah.
and the like the fix there is just have less weight on the front of the car because then it'll be more stable. But that generally mean that I had to back everything up and then actually have some throttle going through the transitional stuff uh like way earlier so the car wouldn't even start to get into a moment as I was like twisting it into like a thread the needle spot. And just the cadence of that is different than it is for the GR86 or an STR car or an STX car or something with rear wheel drive just because the weight distribution is different and the way it makes speed and has grip is different. And I didn't put that into uh I didn't successfully like adjust to that. And I think there's a couple aspects at play there. I think I'm a little autocross rusty. I really like I haven't thought about autocross, like, all winter. I've just been iRacing and, like, thinking about racetrack stuff. So, I think there's, like, part of that, like, my brain just because it's not thinking about it, it just kinda, like, I I have to like, reacquaint myself with, like, oddball things about autocross that, like, might catch me out. But I think more than anything, the thing that was catching me out is I did a red-eye, flight to get there, and I never really recovered from that until like Sunday. I would say I was like 90%, which is normally good enough on Sunday. But Saturday, I was just super exhausted. Are you ever so tired that it's just like it's so hard to focus, you find yourself like not even wanting to be there?
Yes, once. And actually, I think so. I have 2 questions from everything you just said. And by the way, I kind of wanted the topic today for me to ask you, like, how did you diagnose what happened? And how does you in general diagnose a car you're not connecting with? Like, why am I not connecting with
Yeah.
this? Okay, so real quick, you said, uh, have I ever been so tired? Yes. There was one day I was in high school, I think. I was at my parents' house, living there still, and I was going to nationals. And the whatever year it was either the VMAs or the Grammys or something were on, and I usually watch that stuff.
You
So
stay
I
up
was
all
like, it
night
starts at
watching
eight
that?
o'clock. Well, it starts at like 8 o'clock at night, and then it ends at like midnight, right? And I was leaving for nationals that Monday. I was supposed to leave at like, I don't know, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and get there at 7 p.m. And I finished watching the show and I was like, I'm wide awake. I'm packed. Whatever, I'll just leave. So I left my parents' house at midnight and I just started driving through Indiana, Illinois, Iowa. And when I got to the site, I was pretty tired and I got in the car that I was autocrossing for nationals that year. And I go to the test and tune course and it's at this point it's like 5 p.m. So I'd been up the previous day, I drove through and then we're working on maybe closing to 36 hours. And I went through the first slalom in the first warm-up course, in the warm-up course, and I just got disoriented. It was like being shaken in a box that I wasn't in control of, which is really not like
Yeah.
that's the worst sensation you can get when you're at the wheel of the car driving the car. It's like I
Yeah.
don't really know what's happening. It was like being on a roller coaster. I couldn't see where it was going. That's the only time. But I think this has been a trend for you. I think a little bit with this podcast is the performances seem to be related to days that either put you at a disadvantage with rest or like time zone travel. Like those things seem to be really, really amplified for
The
you, whereas
I
for me, they're not.
Yeah, I think those things have always affected me. Even when I was competing in Halo, like I would try to get sleep before the thing because if I didn't have the sleep, I just like just by the data and metrics alone, I would perform worse. So the good news is I don't have any kind of like trouble going to sleep. It's just like finding the time to have the travel and everything work out so I could sleep. Like I use 0 vacation time to go to Las Vegas and autocross for the weekend. Because I don't have any vacation time. You know, between One Lap of America, getting married, and solo nationals, that's basically all my vacation time. Also, I started a new job. I don't know exactly how the vacation accruing works, but I'm assuming I'm not gonna get the full allotment. So like, I think I'm gonna have to, like, work remote, like, in a passenger seat, during 1 lap, like, some half days or maybe even try to do some whole days just to make sure that I have vacation days for solo nationals. So, I can't use any vacation time, essentially.
Makes sense.
I have a couple that are used, but that's to go drive, like, Grattan, or go hang out with Peter while he does, um, uh, Gateway. So, all the vacation time is used for 1 lap essentially.
Do you think it's sleep related or do you think it's like something else just fell over? Oh my God. Sorry. Do you think it's sleep related or do you think it's like stress of travel related?
No,
Like
it's
I'm
just
trying to
sleep.
troubleshoot
Nah, it's just sleep.
just sleep.
I
Have you
don't feel
actually tracked that you
stressed.
sleep less on race weekends or when you travel and stuff? Like you're sleeping measurably less, 1 to 2 hours less.
Eh, um, Normally, like, 7 hours, I'm good, right? Which, like, I
Uh-huh.
realize is a decent amount of sleep. I know some people have that, like, that gene where they can get, like, 5 or 6 hours of sleep and they're, like, ready to go. I have, like, whatever the opposite of that
That's
it
me.
is,
Yeah.
where it's like, if I can do a night of, like, 5 to 6 hours, and then I'm, like, still pretty good, but like when we did the red eye to Las Vegas, we didn't get to our hotel until like
Yeah.
5 a.m. like Eastern, so it's 2 a.m. Las
Yeah.
Vegas time. And then I had to wake up to go like to work remote the next day because we flew in on a Thursday. Don't have any vacation time, so I worked remote. It's a new job, so like I can't like if look if I was still maybe at my last employer, I might have just like set something on the keyboard and just like slept like, but I can't do that. So Because I, like, care about this job, um, so I only got, like, I don't know,
To be
like
clear, you care about this job because you currently have this job,
yes.
right? Not because the last job was
No,
because
I
you didn't
mean,
care about the last
well,
job. Yeah,
the
yeah,
last
yeah, I
job
know
I
what
was
you
trying
mean.
to leave anyways, so, like, that's why I
Yeah,
would've
yeah,
said
yeah.
it something on the keyboard, but, I just, like,
So
ruined
how do we
I
get
just
you to
ruined any future job opportunities for me on the podcast just now.
right.
So
Good thing you're one stage from being self-employed. So how do we like, do you need to plan your sleep out the week of races or something too? The way you plan out your vacation hours? Like, what do you think is an actual productive solution
like
to
a
this?
fix to that? I
Because you're talking about all these things. We talk about driving till we're blue in the face, the
yeah,
color of your
yeah, yeah.
sweatshirt. But how do we fix that you show up to events tired and you can't function?
I think I just need to do a better job of acknowledging that, like, weakness of mine, right? So, like, I booked that red eye because I'm like, well, that's the only flight that I could take, and the only direct flight to Las Vegas is Frontier, and it leaves at like 10 p.m.
Really?
Yeah, that's the only one
Oh,
that I
from
have
Cleveland.
from
Okay.
Cleveland. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's the only one
Huh.
I have is a Frontier flight, and it leaves at 10 p.m. and it does that every day. And so that's the only option I had for a direct flight. All the other ones would have required me to take vacation time. So in this situation, I don't know. Like I couldn't sleep on the plane. It's a Frontier seat, guys. Like you can't sleep in those seats. Like I tried, but like there was just no sleeping on that plane. Um yeah, yeah. So in this particular situation to like try to fix my sleep, because it was so terrible, like I only got 3 hours of sleep and then tried to sleep a whole night. I think I slept like 8.5 hours, but I was still messed up from the previous day. I even
Yeah.
tried to take a nap, but I couldn't because I had to caffeinate so much to try to get through the workday. Um, so yeah, I was just kind of like messed up on Saturday. I don't know.
So in the future for events, you need to know that if you're booking red eyes and you're doing time zones and can't take time off work, you need to like see that coming a week in advance and like add an extra day of extra day, an extra night hour of sleep. Like how people work up to their runs. They do like 1 mile and then 2 miles and then 3 miles.
Or maybe I could like taper down the caffeine intake. So during that like struggle work day or like that struggle day, like I'm more likely to be able to like take a nap afterwards because naps in that situation would really help, right? Because
Yeah,
I was done working like Vegas time at like 2 or 3 o'clock, right? So I had plenty of
right.
time to take a nap, go to the site, get registered, do some practice launches, all those things, right? But I just couldn't nap. So I think like maybe a nap would have like really helped in that situation.
Yeah. I find this an interesting problem to solve because of my life has always been so unstructured that this doesn't really relate to me. Like there were so many times where I was doing track night to a race weekend and it was like flight 6 days a week. And like that kind of thing is just not. You can't do that for 10 years straight and be affected by you know by it too much. So that's why I'm curious. Like how do we fix this? How do we make you not show up? Because almost every single time we've talked about an event that you were dissatisfied with, being tired before it from external factors has been part of it, right? Don't you think?
Yeah. I think also because between the coaching last week and trying to get the FRS, because I'm trying to get it
Yeah.
ready to go drive NCM this upcoming weekend. Uh, I can't wait. Well, I'm sure I'm gonna never get a clean lap, but the tantalizing maybe of a clean lap will keep me going the whole weekend. So,
That sums up our whole hobby.
so I I I think like if I got better sleep throughout that week, then maybe the 3 hours of sleep wouldn't have like affected me as much. But I don't know. I think I think this year is just a little crazy just because of the just one lap and getting married in the same year. I don't know if I'll get to do one lap
And
again
new job.
next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a new job, which is already exhausting in its own because every single day I'm like learning so many things, and it's a you know it's it takes a lot on you. Not to make any excuses, but Saturday, end of the day, watching video, like really just like relax a little bit. Tried to troubleshoot it. Uh, got the advice from you. Sunday went in with like more of a game plan of how I'm going to do it. My first 2 runs. So on Sunday, you only get like 2 runs on the left side and 2 runs on the right side. And luckily, Bill was in front of me, so I got warm tires. Um, and a warm car. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. It felt like the car didn't launch as hard after like a couple runs, but the I don't know, the 60 foots were mostly the same. Uh,
Yeah.
so the me applying like just backing things up a little bit so I have some stability in the car when I get to these really fast transitional things. It clicked like instantly. I was like, oh, that's how the car should feel. So now I'm like having the rear at slip angle, but not in a slide, and dialing that into like the different shapes I should be making around the course would have taken more than just like 2 looks at each course because each course is different. So there's different
Yeah.
things I would have to apply. And I was in the noise. I think it was within my ability to win that event, but just only having driven well on Sunday and having my mind wrapped around the car, there was just no way I was going to win that event. If I won that event, it would have been because everyone else messed up. And honestly, the people at the Las Vegas Pro, like they were just driving so good. Like I was watching their runs because I was a co-driver, so I was just like watching the leaders go, and everyone just
Yep.
looked so solid. So if I was going to beat
Cool.
them, I would have to be better, obviously. And this weekend, I just obviously did not drive better.
The final victory or the final margin was like 5/10, right? You were fourth, but only 5/10 out.
Yeah, something like I didn't honestly. I don't even know. I didn't look. I just know that I
I get
like
that feeling. Yeah.
I. It's not like I finished out the event and was like, oh man, what like. There's been times where like Mark Daddio beat me, and I'm like, I don't know where that was, and we're in like the same car. So the
Yeah.
this time I was like, I know exactly where that time was. I could have gotten that. Like if I would have started on Saturday where I was on Sunday with like the comfortability of the car, I think I would have had a chance.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, so I wanna come back to how to, like, diagnose when you're not connecting to the car. But real quick, my weekend was visiting family in Cincinnati, which was great, and then I did quite a bit of iRacing this week. You'd be proud of me.
Yeah?
You know why?
Why?
Okay, so we talked about the GTP car kinda capturing my attention, so I
Yep.
was doing quite a handful of them. I did 7 or 8 races maybe, let's say, and in the time that it took me to get my head around that car and then how hard a car is, my little I rating, my little safety rating, which is maximum of 4, dropped to 1.5.
So you're about to
Guys,
lose.
my GPA was 1.5 in iRacing. It
So
was so bad.
you're about to lose the ability to do those races.
Yeah, so I'm already in the little B class. I don't know why I keep saying little. I'm already in B class, which is like
The
the
little
second tier.
little baby B class, B for
But
baby.
I was like, I cannot be C class. I'm not gonna lose the rights to some of the faster cars that I like to drive. And I certainly am not gonna be seen with C class next to my name after I'm like, I've been A and now I'm crashed down to B. I'm not gonna crash down to C.
You're gonna be like
So
Tom's
I like,
washed.
yeah, I found a couple of races that I liked and I did a bunch of them. But I swear to God, you guys want to hear a continuation of how much iRacing hates me? I was like trying to do like maybe 2 or 3 races a day to get my I rating back up. So I'm doing this race, and it was the night, if you're in the Midwest/South, you got all those thunderstorms. Well, it was that night. So I'm like leading the race, 5 minutes to go. Summit Point, or not Summit Point, Willow Springs in my BMW. Lightning strikes, power goes out. I'm like, "Ah," I was ready to throw something.
But
This damn game has something out for me. Like, what is it?
that doesn't affect your safety rating though.
It doesn't? Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it affects your I rating, which like is way more important than the safety rating. Let's be
Way more
honest.
important. See, that's what I think the iRacing gods have something to literally smite against me. It was lightning striking the ground to
Yeah,
disconnect me from a race. That's how badly iRacing
that
should not
sucks.
be played by
S-
me.
Sometimes I get disconnected from iRacing when I'm sliding into my seat and I reach over for my headphones that hangs on my shifter, and I'll do a static shock on the shifter, and sometimes
Oh,
it trips my computer. So I'll be
that's
like,
so
I'll
annoying.
like get up for water, like run upstairs, get water, come back down, like set the water next to me, slide into my seat, go for my headphones, zap, no, and it was like I had to grid.
That's actually kind of wild. That's crazy that a little shock can affect it like that.
My humidifier in my house is not functioning, and I haven't troubleshooted it yet. So like, it's on me, guys. It's my fault.
Are you saying your house is so
It's dry.
humid that static?
No, it's dry.
Dry. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last thing I did this weekend was watch a bunch of racing, including our friend Kenton, past podcast guest, won his first GT3 race in SRO. and they won the GT4 race
Kenton
on
killed it
Sunday.
this weekend.
Dude, he was driving so there. Honestly, a bunch of SRO racing is not worth watching. The GT4 races when the pros are in is very good. Like that's a very very entertaining race to watch.
Well, Kenton, when he jumped in the car, was like 14th or 15th or something, and he worked against all the other pros. He like found himself in first, right?
Not first. I think the day that he went from outside the top 10, he got up to second in class. See, this is the thing with maybe real quick. This is the thing with SRO. They have 3 classes for every category because they
Oh,
acknowledge driver ratings.
yeah, weird.
So like for example, Dave Ogburn, you saw this weekend he podiumed. Well, he podiumed in AM class, which is the class they're in, which is I don't even know where overall, but it's behind the pros because they're both amateur rated drivers. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So they won AM, maybe they finished in the top 10, but they didn't win. The cars are all the same, it's just the driver ratings. So I know Kenton got second in class on Saturday, but they won the whole thing Sunday. I just wanted to shout him out because it was cool.
yeah. So hey, look, when you're a guest, like I can't wait to see what Matt Walbaum does because he was a guest like 2 weeks ago. Like when you're a guest on the podcast, things just happen for you guys. Just saying.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Maybe it's
I
delayed
mean,
by like
Brady
7
Popst,
months. Yeah,
look
ready.
at that guy. He's killing it now.
He's killing it now. Oh my goodness.
Greg Kramer, he's doing okay for
Yeah, he's
himself.
doing
Kyle
great.
Heyer.
Yeah, when Greg was on the podcast, next thing you know, he has a podcast with Kyle Heyer.
Yeah. I tried to watch the 86 races, the GR Cup, and I forget why I turned it off. I think I had to go do something, but every time I turn that on, I'm like, "Damn, that's Kyle."
Yeah.
That's so cool. Like Kyle's commentating this full-on pro race.
Yeah, it's cool. It's not even that he's just commentating it, he's getting paid to commentate it. Like, that's the coolest
Yeah.
part.
It's not like a charity, it's like a career thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it was a pretty fun weekend, all things considered. I didn't get to put a helmet on yet, but that's okay. And okay, back to the question. For you to drive the car this weekend, I sent you the little message. I kind of want you to talk about like how did you diagnose the difference between Saturday and Sunday? And then I think there's a bigger conversation for like when you're having a problem with the car, how do I diagnose this? Because it's not like, well, I just suck today. That doesn't exist. There's a fundamental and a specific that is causing you to be off.
Yeah.
You generally
I
you
think
know?
I think the thing that helped me troubleshoot the car the most this weekend was looking at the video because I don't have to rely on my memory of driving it. I don't have to rely on whatever bandwidth that I have while driving it to try to troubleshoot it. And I'm competing, so like any of that bandwidth would be wasted anyways. I should just try to maximize whatever I'm doing. So the video allowed me to focus 100% of my bandwidth on like watching what I'm doing and how the car's reacting.
Oh, watching your own video. Okay.
Watching my own video, yeah, to try to understand, okay, there's a mistake. Why did it happen? Like, go back. Where's the weight on the car? How am I influencing what's happening with it? What do I have the control, like the balanced and the weight and the how the car is on the limit, the path I'm driving through the course, all those things. I wish after the first session we we would have pulled the video off and I could have watched it. Uh, but we didn't. I don't know if that's because I was tired or I thought, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wait,
But
hang on. I think I know what it was. I didn't get enough information from that session, so it's not worth it yet.
yeah, I think I was thinking that. But honestly, I think that's like a mental trap. I think I should have looked at
I
the
agree.
video right away. So I guess
Totally agree.
my advice for the for the listeners, yeah. Also, Bill says also we were hungry. The only food I had for breakfast every day was a gas station pizza. So like, not great, guys. There is nothing next to that speedway in Las Vegas. There's just like a lone gas
Oh,
station.
yeah, yeah. That's basically where the aliens are. That's way up north.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So I think the takeaway from that to like help me troubleshoot it so I don't waste another session would be first run video. So I'm glad that Bill ran video. And then two, look at the video. It only takes a little bit to look at it unless your GoPro is as crappy as mine. Then it maybe you'll never see that video because it's a GoPro and it thing freaking sucks. But
Yeah.
I think we should look at the videos more often, even if you think the session went well. like, because you're at the top of the results. I don't think our memory really captures exactly what happened in that car as
No.
much as we think it does.
And that's a skill set you can learn, but to be honest, it still catches you out. Like I fell in this trap really badly the first year I was coaching, which I think was 2021, during grid life weekends when I had my own S2000. But it was the first year that ASM and Andy were helping run the car. So I'm not really fully paying attention during the weekends to myself. I'm paying attention to the clients and I have this excuse that I'm not part of the car because the team's helping. I wouldn't look at video all year. I didn't have video most of the year, to be honest. And I did the final weekend, which was Kansas, maybe second to final weekend. It was the final weekend because I crashed my car. The final weekend for that car. I had to think that through. Okay, so the weekend that I ran video was Kansas, and I saw how wrong I was driving sections of the track, and then also combined with data. But it was like, oh, I've probably been missing information all year because I just didn't put a damn camera in this car.
Yeah.
But
Y
the camera's the tool. What did you actually notice when you were
So, hold on,
like, what did you learn
I
to diagnose?
I
Oh, go
want
ahead.
I wanna help with the camera thing because I see people do cameras wrong all the time. The camera should capture your inputs, even preferably your feet, so it should be, like, behind you, like, in the center of the car, so you can see what your feet are doing, ideally. Even if it's just, like, your leg, like, if you can just see your knee, like, move, just so you know, like, "Okay, I'm into the brake, I'm letting off the brake," stuff
I
like that.
switched pedals. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I switch pedals. So that's enough information. Too often, people will, like, put the thing on, like, the hood of their car or, like, on the top or in the dash or, like, outside of the car, like, over the left shoulder.
Yep, that
Like,
one.
that one's that one isn't as bad as the dash, but you can only see, like, half of the course. You can't see, like, you can't see, like, what your relationship is to the cones. And for me, it's just way less relatable to what, like, trying to correlate my memory of what happened to the video because, like, I wasn't hanging out of the car when I was driving it. I was in the car. So a camera in the car for me is just easier to understand, like, how I can correlate what I remember and what was apparently happening on video.
That reminds me of when I was in the Jetta and I was, like, perceiving the car from the right-hand drive for the first time, but the camera's still in the middle, and you watch the video and you're like, "Oh, that's not what I looked like at all in my brain."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what
Okay, so the camera was in the car right here, right?
Yep,
Over your right shoulder in the
yep,
car, you can see your inputs.
yep. You had a question before that.
How you use the tool of the in-car video to diagnose what was missing, and you mostly fixed it the next day. What was your process for fixing the thing that was missing?
I would just I concentrated on the weight because that's gonna be the easiest thing for me to concentrate on. So what I was doing wrong is I would have too much weight on the nose when I'd get to the transitional stuff. So the rear would just pendulum because I had too much weight on the nose, and the rear would swing to the left, and then it would really swing to the right. And then next thing you know, I had to, like, gather the thing up and, like, drive out of whatever I was going into very slowly because I had to, like, catch the car, or I would just, like, plow a cone and then that runs over. Like
Right.
like that that was relatively easy to I think if you focus on the inputs in that situation, it would be way harder. But if you focus on the weight and what the car wants, then to me that's much easier to implement. So that's the approach that I always generally go. I mean, that's what I was doing when I was watching the video too. I was trying to get an idea of where did I have the weight and what was it doing to the car. And that's like what I was looking at when I was watching the video. So
That's perfect. Yeah.
yeah, so I think just with that mindset of looking at the video, and then I think it made it easier to apply. I think why I was off pace is I just needed to smooth some of that out, like exactly how far forward the weight needed to be or how much throttle I could use. Just little input nuances that would have like just netted a little bit more speed here, a little bit more speed there, and then that would have turned into like the 5/10 over the 80 seconds of autocross.
Did that shoot, how do I ask this question? So the when you texted me this car's so loose, you're driving like a new but completely stock Hyundai, and I'm like, "It's
It
loose?
it even had
It's
a front
loose?"
bar, Tom. It even had a front
Yeah.
bar on it.
So so when you were explaining that, I'm like, "All right, so he's clearly struggling with having the weight in the right spot at the right time,
Yeah.
because there's no way in hell this car should be loose. It should be pushy as hell. So when I saw the video of someone else's run and it's like the super, super high speed, I'm like, the only way it's loose is if he's just trying to drive it into
I was
everything
trying to drive it
and
in.
then make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which works way better for rear wheel drive. And it also works way better for a better modified car. But when you're in a car that's like basically a rental car.
It essentially
Sorry,
was.
whoever owns this car.
No.
Yeah, it's like a rental car with a turbo and 300 horsepower,
Tru
but it's still like a rental car, spec car.
Trust me, Tom, I was making that joke all weekend. Me and Bill would they would be like, "Oh, whose is this?" And we're like, "Oh, this is the fastest rental car we could find." Like, just, like, joking around because we were both, like, fly and
Nice.
drivers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was the fastest rental we could find. I was making that joke all week. So I think, Theyron and, Charlie are gonna be fine with that.
Nice. Okay, so the question is, did you know that those were your trouble spots before watching the video? Like, could you do the mental dissection of the run and pinpoint? Were you in your day in your brain having a bad day, or were you in your brain struggling with transitions? Like, was there a detail to it? You know what I mean?
I was just having a bad day. I just felt like I didn't understand what
Okay,
the car was doing, which was kinda making me, I was, like, spiraling a little bit because
totally get it.
yeah, because I was like, this is a uncomfortable feeling of not understanding what the car's doing. Like, normally, I have a really good grasp on exactly what's happening with the car, but for whatever reason, on this course, in this car, I'm not connecting with what is happening, and then watching the
Yeah,
video was like, "Oh, shoot, like, this is so obvious," and I think part of that is the fatigue that I had. I think
sure.
if I was just a slightly higher functioning, then I would have just been like, okay, because I would have had a better memory of the run, and then I would have had
Yeah,
a little bit more capacity to maybe even think about it, like, as it happened, as I'm sitting there getting my tire pressures checked, like, ready to launch again, right? So I think I would have, normally, like, picked up on that stuff, but I think I was just, like, a little bit on my heels, and it just kept happening, like, all through Saturday. I was just on my heels.
I totally get that. I was there so many times. Not to say that you're early, but in my early autocross career, I was like a 50-50 kind of driver. I had your experience, what you're describing now, like half the time. It was like, why do I suck today? And that's why I wanted to make it like, how do I diagnose this? Because for me, I didn't learn the bandwidth for how to go through, I'm having a bad day and extrapolate that into like, what am I struggling with? It was just like, I'm off today. But I kind of learned over time to take that next step from I'm struggling today. What am I struggling with? Rerun the run in my head, watch the video if you need to, rewatch the lap in my head and like really identify like what am I struggling with? And I think that really is not that many things that can be a problem. I think it's either like mismanaged weight, which is way more a problem in autocross than it is road course, but for both. And uh and vision, that applies to both. Like if your eyes are down, your eyes are looking at the hood, your eyes are uncomfortable. And then the one that applies to road courses more than autocross is reference points. Like if you just forget to use them, road course drivers
Or,
can
like
relate to that. Reference points don't exist in autocross
yeah,
so
or,
much.
like, I'll find if I'm
Or
really
for
not
braking markers, sorry.
yeah, but, like, if you're the only reference you're using is the brake marker instead of all the other stuff that you can look at, like, while you're creating a lap around a racetrack, then you're just being lazy with your references, right? So, like, you can be
Exactly.
off if you find yourself being lazy with the references, and that stuff can happen without you even realizing it until you, like,
Yeah.
sit back and think about it.
Dude, there was one day I was at Mid Ohio. I think it was a WRL race, but it might have been something else. But it was a race. I had just gotten in the car and let's call it like 7, 8 laps into the stint. I'm coming over turn 5, Madness, which is the left hand at the top of the hill and those S's, if you're with me. And I felt my eyes for the first time I had gotten in the car snap from looking straight forward to looking at the exit at the bottom of turn 6, which is like down to my right. And I felt my eyes move so intentionally and so like it made me realize I had not moved my eyes since I had gotten in the car, basically, you know?
Yeah,
Like I was just driving Mid Ohio because I know Mid Ohio. I got in the car, I started turning laps, and then 6 laps in, I come up over this blind crest, and instead of looking down the hill, my eyes looked over to the right where I was actually going to go. And it was this like I remember this from 10 years ago close to that I'm just like, whoa. I was so subconscious and unconscious in my activity that took me 7 laps to like look ahead.
yeah,
And I felt that moment so like intensely. I'm like, oh, I have to remember this because if I can diagnose I'm having a and I remember getting in the car thinking like I'm a little uncomfortable.
yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm getting up to speed. I'm like feeling this out. And then a couple laps in, my eyes move, and I'm like, "Oh shit, my eyes haven't moved yet."
Yeah, I bet your bandwidth was, like, a little stressed, and then
Yeah.
as you got comfortable in the car and you, like, settled in, then your bandwidth opened up, and then those subconscious things, like, were allowed to operate again, and because you opened up that bandwidth, you noticed it. You're like, "Oh, shoot, like, what am I doing? I should have been doing this the whole time."
Yep. I remember looking at the curb from that perspective, like from the exit of turn 6 at the top of turn 5. And I saw that, like, I saw the movie, like, change scenes almost, and I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
"Oh, oh, I see it now." Like, "Oh, what was I doing?" It was a very interesting moment that took me, like, 10 years to get to, and then it's been 10 years since almost, and I'm like, "Man, that was still a defining, like, realization."
Was that, like, your first session of the day or, of the weekend at
Yeah.
that track? Yeah, okay, so
Yes.
first session of the day, uh, I mean, I should do this autocross too, and I actually do, is I intentionally, consciously focus on vision the most, and then everything else falls into place, and then once you're in, like, a rhythm of it, it doesn't take as much, like, frontal lobe processing power, but you have to get it going. You have to get that, like, that eye engine going. Like, if you don't get it going, then it just sits there not running, but, like, once you get those eyes, like, moving around and gathering information, then I find, like, they'll keep doing that thing. But to get it going, it actually takes some, like, deliberate concentration on it.
Yep. So what are some other things that you can fall into a trap of? I'm thinking now, like, I've been in the situation before where I've been charging, transitions or S's on a racetrack too hard, and I'm like just working the car from door handle to door handle side by side, or and I think it's fast because it feels fast, which sounds similar to what you were doing this weekend. Where
Yeah.
like I'm just gonna throw it into this thing and like hope it works. What are some other things like that? I can remember. Uh, I'm trying to think of other times where I've had those moments where I'm like, oh, I need to pay attention to a detail rather than just say I had a bad day.
Yeah.
You think of any others?
No. I
It's
mean,
tough because there's so many variables that you can even though it boils down to like those kind of 2, 3, 4 things, there's so many ways that those can manifest.
yeah, I mean, they really can. They come up in, multiple different ways. Um, I think that's basically it for the weekend, except I did wanna talk about some autocross rules for a second, if you'll bear with me here, Tom.
Oh boy. Well, it's not just rules, autocross rules. It's deciphering rule books like a lizard.
Yes. Okay, so this weekend, my co-driver, Bill Zur, ran into a situation where there was a cone out of place on the left side course, and Bill was sitting on his first run on the left side the whole weekend. He either had a red light or he had a cone or whatever, but the raw time was there for Bill to just win, right? And so going into
Yep.
Sunday, he knew, and he started on the right, so he would have somewhat warm tires going into the left. He just had to clean. He had the fastest right side. All he had to do was clean up the left side, right? Well, on his first run, he notices a cone out of the box, and it's very much to his disadvantage. He doesn't stop. He just finishes out the run. It was basically a throwaway, anyways. It was the second run. So it comes down to like the last run on the left side to see if Bill wins the event or not. And on his way back, he yells at the course worker, "Hey, there's a cone out of the box. Uh, like check your cones or whatever." And then he sees like the course workers like look around. So then he does the crawl back to the thing, and I check the tire pressures, and he launches on the right side. And then he goes to go on the left side again, and the cone was still displaced. It wasn't in the right spot. So he stops and comes back, and they at first they were like, "Well, it wasn't displaced enough to be a penalty, so you don't get a rerun." It was 90% out of the box. It was barely in the box, and it was completely like in the direction that would make the radius of that corner, and it was a thread the needle element that would make the radius of that corner uh not like it was to his detriment, right?
Yeah.
So he wasn't driving the same course on the left side than everyone else got the whole weekend. And he kind of put himself in a little bit of a box where he just needed like a good left side to, to have victory and glory and all that stuff.
It's a victory.
I honestly, so Bill went out and did a rerun. They fixed the cone. It was a provisional rerun. He was off by like a tenth or whatever. And it doesn't matter that the rerun didn't stick because the rule that exists says if a driver stops for a rerun, and the cone does not warrant a penalty, they just lose that run. So the problem with this like displaced cone, and so at a national tour, if the cone is displaced, so it's still in the box, but it's just not squarely in the box. Like the cone has, they draw chalk lines around the cones. If the cone has broken
Oh,
the plane of the chalk line, it is displaced. And if you stop for it, you get a rerun, right? For some reason in Pro Solo, which is just autocross with a drag tree launch, you don't get reruns for displaced cones, and it's actually like in the rules. They showed us the rules because as a class and as a collective, like we were getting kind of worked up, honestly. Like we were ready.
yeah.
We had our pitchforks out. Like we're like, what do you mean he doesn't get his rerun? Like that's I don't like that precedent. Like that cone wasn't in the spot. Like that wasn't the course that we've been driving the whole weekend. But the rule as it sits, so there's nothing we could do about it because the rule, like whether we agree with it or not, it exists. If the cone isn't knocked over or completely out of the box, the rerun is not granted. Why is it like that? I asked on the SCCA member, Bill made a post and it got a lot of interaction on the SCCA members page. I asked for somebody to give me some context on why it would be different between a tour and a pro solo. Like, is it the operation of the event? Like reruns are a little bit more awkward because you kind of go in like waves with your class or whatever. I That's the only thing that I can think of. But and when I brought this up to people that would actually have influence over this rule, I got a bunch of stuff brought up where it's like a problem that doesn't exist, but that could theoretically exist. Well, what constitutes a cone out of place? Like, if it's twisted, is that out of place? What happens when people start driving around slowly looking for cones out of place? Uh, it messes with the flow of the event. Like all these problems that like literally they don't exist and could just be fixed with like another ruling or something. Like if you're intentionally driving a certain amount of seconds off pace or like certain percentage off pace, no rerun will be granted like when you come across the line. Because if they were driving around so slowly to like visually check every single cone, all hundreds of cones on the course to make sure every single one is like squarely in its chalk box, that's not a problem that exists. The problem that exists and what Bill's issue brought up is a bunch of people have had similar problems where the cone is not fair. It's displaced, but it's not fully out of the box, so they can't stop. There's no mechanism to fix that cone. Everyone just has to drive that cone until somebody hits it, and then maybe it will end up back into the box in the place that it's supposed to be. Can you imagine if the slalom, if they were all wiggled and somehow they like twisted where they were half a cone against you? So, like where it's a tighter slalom, that any runs on that side of the course for that heat are done. And so to me, like this one particular cone, because there's a thread the needle element, it just basically nullified any of the left side runs because like you would have to slow down so much more to get through this element, and the element led on to like deep third gear like forever. Uh, like that time would never get like you would never get that time back, and there's no current mechanism in competition to have that cone fixed. What do? Refuse to launch the car until like you see somebody go out there and like fix it from like the tree? Right now, I think that's the only mechanism to fix it. So the reason I'm bringing it up on the podcast is I think this is just an obvious problem that has an obvious simple fix. Where why don't we just have the national tour displacement cone rules for pro solo? Why does pro solo have different rules? That is obviously flawed. If there's no mechanism to create a fair course, then
I don't
what are
okay.
we doing?
I see what you're saying. Real quick, I need you to clarify because I pulled the rule book up and it says about displaced or down cones. This is the pro solo rule book, not the autocross one.
Yep.
A competitor encountering a down or displaced cone on the course has the option of continuing the run or stopping as soon as possible and pointing out the down or displaced cone to a course worker. If the competitor stops, they must proceed per section 7.4, which is a rerun rule. It's not about stopping. If the competitor continues the run, the time will stand, but the subject may be penalized for the down cone. Reruns for displaced or down cones after the timing line will only be given at the discretion of the chief steward. So to me, that's pretty clear. If a clone is displaced, you can stop. What did they tell you?
There's a rule somewhere else, and somebody please find it. I should have brought this up before we started the podcast, but I was doing a Porsche Cup race in iRacing. It was intense. My heart rate went to 190, Tom. Anyways,
Are you alive?
it was
Are you
such a
with us
great
from
race.
beyond
I
the
was
grave?
shaking after the race. It was so good.
Holy
Anyways,
cow.
like I had autocross shakes after the race. That's how good the race was. So, somebody please find the rule. But there's another ruling or a bulletin or something in there that says the if the cone it does not warrant a penalty, it's something along the lines of that, like that wording. So it's something if like it's displaced but not enough to warrant a penalty, then no rerun is awarded.
Okay, well, I searched for rerun in the rule book and I cannot find anything like that. So it sounds like, oops, somebody found something.
Okay.
Penalty for a vehicle displacing a cone. For a rerun to be for a rerun to be granted, driver must briefly and safely stop, pointing to the down cone. That pylon must be displaced enough to warrant a penalty under pro solo rules for a rerun and be granted. Conducts deemed to be hunting for slightly displaced cones will be subject to penalty.
Did they change
Okay,
it already?
I don't know, but whatever I'm seeing, my grand thought of this is there's way too much discretion put to these chief stewards because it basically says anywhere they can't come up with a rule, it says the chief steward. And the chief steward is the reason I lost my protest, not to make it about me, but they're like, well, the chief steward made the call, so we can't like it says at the discretion of the chief steward, so it's what his call was.
I we
I
we were
I don't
looking
I don't know
at
about that.
I don't know where it was, but we were looking at the rule book and found because we're like I said, we were all heated up. We had our pitchforks out. We were ready to like string somebody up. Um,
To me, it seems so logical and obvious that like I can't believe that this is an up in arms thing.
right?
I don't understand. It's like whoever made the decision made the wrong call, and
No,
whoever like they
there's
should
a
just own that.
it's not I don't think it's as subjective as there's a clause or something in the Pro Solo rule book. Somebody please find it. Is it in there and I
It
just
literally
didn't read it?
says if it's displaced enough to warrant a penalty under the rules. Who
Yes.
is determining that? Are there measurements in the rule books?
So that means it has to be completely out of the box or fallen over.
No, it doesn't. It says it just says that's a completely discretionary statement. It must be displaced enough to warrant a penalty.
Yeah,
That
so
doesn't make any sense.
a penalty for like the previous driver or like because if you hit a cone and it's not out of the box, you don't get a penalty for it. That's what that means.
Yeah, but it's displaced. I'm saying that the argument is too being displaced is too gray. And whoever made the call of whether or not that cone was displaced is clearly wrong.
It's
And they should
displaced.
probably like not be a chief steward
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah. It's displaced enough to warrant a penalty.
Dude, it is so easy to tell. I could give my 5-month-old niece a cone that is placed in the box by a human being course worker and a cone that's been wobbled. She could tell the difference. Like it's literally not that hard.
Well, so then when I brought this up of like one of the counterpoints was, well, what do we call it? We have to call it the chief steward to evaluate if a cone is enough out of the box. I'm like, no, the course worker makes that decision because that's how it works. Like that's
Yeah,
how it
that's how
works
it
everywhere.
works.
Yeah, like this isn't a problem that exists.
I don't like that. Whoever made these decisions did a bad job. And I hope you hear this and I hope you fix your mentality because this just seems so
It's
silly.
just like
There's
there's not a
there's no
mechanism.
there's literally no the conversation ends at the discretion of whether a cone has been displaced or not. Like there's not a discretionary statement there. It's literally was the cone displaced by another car? That's so black and white to me. I don't understand how you could be confused.
Yeah, like
Because
and
there's no course worker out there just like flipping cones and having a good time putting them in the little box. No, literally every course worker sees the little box on the ground and puts the cone in the box straight. Like everybody who can autocross and drive a car can do that.
yeah. It just was missed by the course workers. So because the course workers made a mistake, it has to affect somebody's event. That it shouldn't work like that. It shouldn't work like
Unless
that.
there's another rule that we haven't seen, I can't find any proof in these rules that makes whatever their call was
It's that
correct.
is that is what the call was because it
No.
didn't warrant
No,
a
no, no.
penalty because it was still 10% in the box.
That's not how that works. They
Well,
did a bad
that's
job.
how it works in pro solo. So look,
Well, they did a
if
bad job.
if the no,
Like,
I
you need to be embarrassed of yourself a little bit if you
that's a
made that
terrible
call. No,
rule.
no, no.
And the reason why it's a terrible rule is because there's no mechanism that exists for Bill to get a clean run. That just didn't exist. He couldn't
That just
stop
means there's no common sense.
like
They
it.
didn't enforce any rule as written, Bill. I'm really sorry. There's no rule written that there's a discretion of what's a displaced cone.
It says if it warrants a penalty.
This is so nerdy. That's not how that works. There's no dis
That's what they
oh,
pointed at. They enforced it as written. The cone did not warrant a penalty for whoever hit it and moved it 90% out of the box. So Bill wasn't granted a rerun.
okay, I'll be clear. These are all such small problems, it doesn't really matter. But also, I just think whoever made that call did a bad job. You should question whether you're, actually reading these rules clearly enough to do that job.
I
I
think
don't know who this person is, but I
I
think that
think they
that's like a grossly incompetent ruling of the rules.
I think they ruled as the ruling is worded. I don't think reading it could be ruled any other way. So I think we have a disagreement on whether it was whether how it's worded, but it's worded like it has to be displaced enough to warrant a penalty, and it was not displaced enough to warrant a penalty. So therefore, it was ruled that Bill didn't get a rerun. The
But
problem,
that's
the problem
no, no.
to Tom, to me, the problem is not the interpretation of the rule. It's just the rule. The rule shouldn't.
What's the rule though? That's my point. There's no rule about discretion of whether or not a penalty should be given. This is like a rule written in the rule book that you have to pass weight on your car, but they don't tell you what your minimum weight is. Or like there's you know what I'm saying? Like they're applying parts that don't you're no, 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 no. They did a bad job. They don't understand how this sport works well enough to do their job. Whoever made
I don't.
this, it's a committee or a person. No,
Yeah, the rule written is my issue.
there's no rule written. Okay, if someone can find me this rule, maybe we just need to table this because we're not getting anywhere. But I found another section: displaced markers have replaced will be replaced before the next competitor enters that portion of the course. Where an official run covers all or part of the course, course marshals should have extra markers so the markers displaced during the first part of the run can be replaced by the second part of the run. Drivers cannot stop for their own displaced markers. That's the
Okay,
last thing I can find.
so of section 20.10.j,
Uh oh, we're doing a
number
full rules
number
analysis, guys. Come
2
on.
2b, it says for a rerun to be granted for a downed pylon, a driver must briefly and safely stop pointing to the pylon in question. That pylon must be displaced enough to warrant a penalty.
What does that mean? To
When
me, if a cone was
when do you get a
displaced, there's
penalty?
literally
When do you get a penalty from a
what?
displaced cone, Tom?
When it's well, for the driver that touched the cone, if it's still standing up and touching the box. For the next driver coming through, that cone was displaced by the previous driver and has the right to have that cone placed back in the box.
They do, but not with how that rule's written.
I disagree. No, this is just bad. This is what happens when people who don't know how to read rules like a lizard write rules or enforce rules. It's just a bad
It's
call.
just a poorly written rule. I don't think it's I whatever the call, I don't care about the call.
It's not a poor written rule. The rule is not the problem. It's the interpretation of moving rules and crossing lines and crossing wires. They crossed the streams. The Ghostbusters crossed the streams. They got confused. That's what happened.
I'm curious what the chat thinks.
The rule is literally not the problem. Whoever interpreted what's going on is the problem. That's my final say.
Okay. Look, if you guys want to fix the rule or call the person out who made the call, please get involved because to me this is a flaw in competition. And there should be a mechanism that exists to fix incorrect cones other than refusing to launch the car at the pro solo line because how it's set up right now, the only option Bill had to make sure that that cone was fixed was to refuse to launch the car until they fix the cone because I don't think they got rid of the like the commit line or whatever on the cones. and so you don't have to, like, stay in cadence with the running. Maybe there's something in there to prevent, like, like, stalling the event, but it's just it's just a flaw in the competition. It needs to be cleaned up.
I think that every once in a while there's something like this that happens that feels like a big deal, but it's just a really simple, like, someone made a bad judgment call, and it's you don't have to. This is again, I've been very harsh with what I've just said about like this person, whoever enforced this did a bad job. That doesn't make them a bad person. Let me be very clear. But also like that is completely okay because it's a 100, first of all, 100% volunteer run. Second of all, it's motorsports and it's not that serious. But like we should all be able to say like no, that doesn't make sense. And then this other volunteer person who's in charge who made a bad choice, made a bad call, the same way that whoever allowed them to reset up the same course a couple years ago at Bristol. They just made a bad choice. It's just a bad call and it I don't know. I I don't know what to say beyond that. Like that's the kind of learning opportunity that people can take to say like, you know, maybe I don't understand this or maybe I don't have the like I'm not the authority.
I'm
If
curious
literally
how you're
everybody is
reading
looking
it.
at you going,
I'm
"Huh?
curious how you're reading it, because to me, like, I read that and I
I'm
feel
reading
like
the
I
words."
understand it. Yeah, I'm reading the words. How are we getting different meaning from the words? This is
Because the cone was displaced by another competitor, the rule book says that a competitor has the right to have the cone put into place. If they see a cone's not in place, displaced by another competitor, they have the right to stop, and then they proceed with a procedure that allows them to get a rerun. To me, that's so black and white that literally, if you make a call other than that, the crowd should look at you and go, "No, you're wrong."
so
That's not an acceptable and valid opinion.
when you read 2B, the part where enough to warrant a penalty, where does that land?
Okay, well, then they need to put something in there for warranting a penalty. They used to have a second square around the box that if the cone was outside the first square but still touching the second, it was fair but out of the box. Or they used to freaking put tennis balls on the top of the cones. If you hit it, the tennis ball went rolling. Like, have something to say what the displacement is. You can't just say if it's displaced. If somebody else hit it, it's displaced. That's black and white.
But is it displaced enough to warrant a penalty?
That's not a part of the conversation. That's
It
like, did he wreck him
it's
hard enough
written.
to take him out of the race?
It
That's not what the ruling is. The
it's
ruling is you crashed into somebody.
okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I to me, it says enough, like, it's displaced enough to warrant a penalty.
But that definition isn't anywhere else in the rule book. So as far as I'm concerned, if anybody else displaces a cone, if the corner worker walked out and turned it 20 degrees, that's displaced. I didn't do that.
Yeah, I agree. So, Bill should have gotten a rerun.
I completely agree with that. And whoever chose to not give Bill a rerun did a bad call and should really reflect on like their understanding of rules and interpretation. Maybe they shouldn't be in that job anymore. Or maybe they shouldn't be in that job for a little bit. Or maybe this is the one thing they can learn from and they're like, oh yeah, all right, yeah, I messed that up. That was a bad choice.
Alright, we're just gonna have to disagree on this, Tom. To me, it's the rules the problem, and you're saying it's the officiating.
We're agreeing that it was a problem, but I don't think that the rule book needs to be rewritten. I think a human intervened and made it not work.
I can't I think I'm more fascinated about our disconnect on this.
If somebody can point me in the rules where it says where it defines
What a penalty is?
no, what a displacement is. The argument that we're having is about displacement. Is a cone displaced?
Kevin says scroll up, we did.
Me? Wait, what? Am I supposed to read something? I don't know. We're agreeing. We're disagreeing on how we got to the conclusion.
We're
But
agreeing
I
that it's
think
a
it's okay.
problem, but
I
if we
I
don't
think
agree
it's
on what the
so
problem is, then I think there's less momentum to have the problem actually solved. That's why we're still
let me
on
like
this.
pivot the yeah, let me pivot this. So imagine in the realm of like GLTC when we're wheel to wheeling and we have a peer review and the peer review is just like they come back and you're like, "What? What?" Do you remember when they penalized Jeremy for punting a meal? You know what I'm
Wait,
talking about?
no, it was, uh
Or whether was it
no,
the other
they
way around?
no, they penalized Emil because Jeremy
For hitting
spun
Jeremy.
after Jeremy hit Emil.
Whatever it was. Whatever it was, there was a scenario where who was at fault? Jeremy was at fault. Who was at fault?
It
You remember?
Emil was at fault and he got rear-ended.
Okay, I don't remember the details now, but
The
whatever it
the
was, the
details was
entire grid afterward.
Emil was in front of Jeremy. Jeremy hit him going into turn 1 at Coda. Jeremy spun, Emil just kept going, and then Emil got a penalty.
Oh,
That was
that's
the
right.
instance.
That's right. That's right. And then because that happened, all the rest of us are like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Like at some point when everybody else is disagreeing, you got to just be like, clearly something's off here.
Yeah.
And on top of that, on top of my argument that I just made, the rule book doesn't prove anything that they did. So I think they just did a bad job. I've said it enough now.
Okay. I'm gonna
Do you want to
clip that
answer a
and
quick
send it to him.
question?
Yeah, do we have oh, you mean like a email question?
Sure.
Emails. Extra long one.
All right, we have a question about road course driving, excuse me. Did we talk about curbs?
I don't think we've talked about curbs. I do
Cool.
love curbs though.
We have a question from David Entz. Maybe a discussion about curbing. What's the risk reward? When and why do you hit a curb? Always, never? Question mark. Who, when, what, where, why? Track specific? Question mark, exclamation point. Favorite curbs?
Ooh,
Busby
favorite
line?
curbs. The
It just
Busby
got in
line.
more and more intense. What's this? What are your thoughts on curbs?
I mean, I think Gingerman would be a far better racetrack if it had some chonky curbs on it.
Oh, you you want elevation.
I want like big curbs that like create dynamic in the car.
Okay. What do you think about how do you approach curbs?
Mm. Uh, I mean, you experiment. How do you approach curbs?
Yeah, experiment. I think curbs are extra part of the racetrack. So in general, I'm a big fan because you can extend the width of the track, car width or so, two car widths maybe. Um, I think the thing that a lot of people don't think about with curbs to the like the root cause of it is you think about like coming into your driveway and if you just drive straight at your driveway or any sort of like curb, it sucks. But if you come at it at an angle, it's way more, way more friendly and way more shallow, I guess, or way more what's my word? Gentle, whatever. On a road course, those small amounts of angles matter a lot. So like picking the curbs you can hit.
And like the trajectory that you hit them matters.
The angle that you hit them at matters more so than which ones you use
Yeah.
sometimes. So like NCM is a great example where there's certain curbs where you have to jump them coming out of the sinkhole up onto the front straight, those S's.
Hmm.
You mostly want to hop the first one for sure. You can touch the second one and you don't want to touch the third one in most cars.
I mean,
But if you hit the first one at the wrong angle, it's the worst one to hit, even though it's the one you want to hit. You have to come at it from a way that's basically going to make your entry to the driveway the most shallow.
yeah, let's not forget the goal that we're doing on the racetrack. It's to set the fastest time possible, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's not
and
use the most width.
let's let's think about why curbs are even on the racetrack to begin with. It's so the racetrack doesn't have to constantly fill in holes and do landscaping. That's why the curbs exist. So there's like a happy
Yeah.
medium somewhere in there of okay, because if the curb's too friendly and you can just drive all four wheels over it and you're driving through the grass or whatever, and then the curb's not doing its job. There's a happy medium somewhere in there. I think that's part of my enjoyment of the curbs is you have to find that like happy spot in there. Talking
Yep.
about NCM on the inside, you'll have like big old chungus like bulby curbs, and then on the exit you have like those gators where it gets more intense like the farther out you are.
Uh-huh.
But then you can drop off the other side and then it's smooth. So then that kind of changes the calculus of that curb, right?
Calculus. Ooh, with the derivative of the curb.
Is this going to be a new T-shirt?
I don't know. I don't know anything about calculus.
We know plenty of people who know plenty about calculus that can give us T-shirt ideas. But to me, it's and certain cars will be fine on curbs compared to other cars. Um, I think curbs add to the racetrack. One, you're less likely to fall into a hole, uh, on like the beginning or exit of a corner, because that shouldn't be a thing. Like you run a little wide and then because you're trying to maximize time and then your car like drops into a hole and you damage your car. Like that's stupid. Like that hole needs a curb.
Yeah. I I'm with you. I think curbs are they kinda give you that, like, I'm breaking the rules a little bit feeling.
Yeah,
You're like, "Yeah,
definitely.
ooh, this is fun." But okay, so curbs, if they're flat and not serrated or not textured, use them. If they're raised and not serrated or textured, you can usually use them if you do the driveway trick that I'm talking about. If they're serrated, you're probably meaning, rippled, edged, whatever, you're probably risking your car
Hmm.
like, mechanically, and you're also risking losing control of the car, and you're also risking losing acceleration because the tire is partially in the air. If you have a low horsepower car, that matters.
Yeah, especially
And
without a diff,
then
because you'll pop that inside rear up, it spins up, you're actually not accelerating for as long as it's spinning, and then it hits. So it's
exactly.
bad from the mechanical sympathy of your car. It's bad for lap time. It's bad for all those things. That's why you have to experiment with them. And the more curbs you experiment with, the better idea you'll have. You'll be like, I can't use that one.
No, yeah, that one's like a hard like, when I go to Road America and anything that's not brand new, I don't touch the curbs because screw that, it's gonna break.
It
Uh,
I mean, it does break. But the unfortunate thing about Road
which is
America is that the using the curbs really is important for the lap time. That's why
way faster.
yeah, that's why you have to, like, basically trash your car to set a lap time at Road America.
What's your favorite curb?
My favorite curb.
Question
Oh
only
my
asked on
goodness.
the Lizard Brains podcast.
Ah, man.
Listeners, while DJ thinks, send in your favorite curb.
Yeah, send in your favorite curb. What's your favorite curb noise? Yeah, Mid-Ohio. I already knew it, just by frequency.
Yep.
Yeah. Something very satisfying about that,
You're
like,
going
super high
slower.
pitch, yeah. Yep, yep, going slower. Yeah, you messed up turn 1 and then you hear dang it.
So Richard says Deception NCM, that's turn 12. Mid Ohio Thunder Valley exit for Ito. Turn 3 Road Atlanta
Turn 3 Road Atlanta's
for
a pretty good one.
Spaz.
So turn 3 Road Atlanta, that curbing is actually really intense, but you're so unloaded and it's kind of falling down the hill that if you hit it hard enough, you skip the intense part of it, which is like extra dopamine for the lizard brain, right?
Yep. All right, I have a obscure selection here from my favorite track that I haven't been to in way too long. Mosport, on the inside of turn 2, on the entry, you come in going uphill, blind. You brake before you can see the corner. You turn in before you can see the corner slowly. And then you, at the very, very first apex of the corner, you hop this hump that's like a curb slash drain, drain divot slash like channel that runs down the inside of the corner. And you get this like lift off from the inside two wheels. And then you land and you drop like 8 stories into the good camber and into the fun part of the corner. I'm gonna put it's not really a curb, like it's not painted red and white, but it makes the car go in the air and it's a little bit of a bump. That might be my favorite curb.
Okay, I missed the track, and just by you explaining it, that's turn 2 at Mosport.
Yeah, most
Yep.
sport. And then also I think oh no, maybe not. I was gonna say more the bus stops at at Watkins Glen is kind of a fun curb,
Hmm.
but they're actually a little uncomfortable.
I do think like a chicane curb is pretty fun, but I think I've only driven those in iRacing. Like I'm thinking like the chicane at the end of like a lap of Imola, where you're like your momentum from one curb, like you basically like kind of bounce over the next one. Like think like
Uh-huh.
V8 supercar where they're kind of just just like bouncing and flying over these curbs. They have to like set their angle in, and then that
Uh-huh.
after they
Uh-huh.
hit the first curb, their trajectory set, and they're gonna hit the second one as well.
I got another good one. This is an obscure one though. The outside new pavement exiting NASCAR turn 3 at VIR. I think
Oh
some would argue that that ruined the track when they added width, but I think going through turn 3 at VIR and tracking all the way to the red dirt
yeah,
on that extra pavement, like, that feels pretty good
the
too, and it's not that
VIR
hard.
curbs are pretty good. I really like the whole like lower S's or like the bottom of the snake. What is that like 4A,
Oh, sure.
5A, 5A and B?
It's kinda like skiing moguls. You're, like, going from, like, little hump to little hump.
Well, like, cause it's like the curbing is like on the inside, quote unquote, of like the next corner, but really it's the exit of 5B. So you're like sliding the car into that, and it's a really tall curb, but it has like a gradual like gradient up. So
Mhm.
it kind of feels like you're like sliding the car into a hill and you kind of just jump off of it.
Yeah. You, like, go up into the cushion almost. Like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
yeah,
it caught
yeah.
me."
Yeah,
Yep.
that's really satisfying. I think the curbs at NCM when you're using it to like SCCA time trial rules are pretty satisfying because you like overshoot the curb, so your outside tire will like buzz by it, and then your inside tires are barely staying on it if you carried enough speed. That's pretty
Yep.
satisfying. I don't think people pointed out deception at NCM. I don't think that's a very satisfying curb.
It's just fun to jump. I think that's why. It's
I've
fun to get the photo of the jump.
Yeah, I don't think it's actually faster though.
Yeah, I think it's a wash. It was faster in certain cars for me for sure,
I was
but
gonna
it's
say
it's more like,
it
could
probably
you stay
depends on the
flat out
car.
longer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe like a really fast soft car, you might be able to because you could change your angle for the left-hander after deception.
Yeah, or like my S2000, the rebuilt one T3, when we went to NCM was still super pushy.
You could hit
So
it.
I would literally like I would just jump it, and it was bad for the car, but I was desperate.
Was
Do you
it
remember the video
faster?
of me almost crashing on the exit of 13?
Yeah, was it
Like drifting all the
faster?
way out? It was definitely faster, but it would risk me doing that, you know?
Hmm. Well, because you took a weird bounce, so you were, like, too far left, and then you had to
Exactly.
flick the car, and that's why you slid all the way out to the edge of the wall.
Right. So every other lap I got the good bounce, and then that lap I got the bad bounce. Trying to think if there's any other like West Coast tracks that have underrated curbs.
I think that
Willow Springs might have the most underrated curbs, which are just boulders off the edge of the track.
I think I've never been to Nürburgring, but I think those curbs are really, unique
Sure.
and special. They had kinda like they're really steep, but then they have, like, a flat bricked surface on the top of them. I think that's really cool.
I also think, I mean, basically all tracks wouldn't be the same without curbs, but I think Putnam Park would be specifically bad without curbs
Ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
because they
yeah.
remember they're at like a 45-degree angle, so they almost
They
act
kinda catch you a little bit.
like bowling ball gutters or something. Yeah, the same
Yeah.
way that you talked about VIR.
I think the most enjoyable part of Gingerman is turn 11 because that curb catches you.
Uh huh.
If that
And 5 and 6, like when you get the curbs just right, where you like get the apex of 6, and then it tracks all the way up, but you just make it on past, right
because the
as the
curbing is
curb ends.
concrete, yeah.
Yeah.
I still think
Ooh, that's the last thing about curbs. This is really important for learning tracks. Try them and find out if they have more grip, especially in the rain. Because there are certain tracks, if they don't paint the curbs, and honestly, even a couple that do paint the curbs, they mix a lot of sand in the paint, and they can be really grippy in the wet, but also just in the dry. Like Lime Rock, my track tips video talks about how the curbs can really help a car around Lime Rock.
you can learn a lot from how you should be driving a racetrack based on where the curbs are, but then also where the dirt is in relationship to those curbs. So, like, if you see a curb and then there's dirt on the inside of that curb, that means people are just using all of that curb. Like, you don't even have to do any guessing. You're like, "Yep, that curb's good." If you
Yep.
see a curb where it kind of falls off into like a ditch, like on exit, then people are using that curb and then barely making it back on the racetrack, right? Because like the wear and tear on the track is an indication of where the fastest people are driving. Because the fastest people are using every bit of the track and then a little bit more sometimes. So like that's where you're gonna find like that little wear in the dirt and stuff like that on the edge of the racetrack. So if you see a curb, like for example, like the apex curb on the entry into Thunder Valley, that always has dirt on the inside because you're literally like carrying half the car in the grass, like as you're like wrapping the car like through that corner. So yeah, that's that's my hot curb tip.
All right, last one. Do you have a least favorite curb?
Ooh, least favorite curb that
This is
like
hard to think
ruins
about.
the flow
Road
of a
America
place.
curbs because they break my car.
Yeah, because they break the car. That one's kind of easy though. But even though like besides the car not breaking, those curbs are kind of fun. Like especially the turn 7 curb.
Yeah, yeah, they are.
Yeah.
What's a not fun curb? I think chicane curbs kinda suck, like Portland. I know that this is an obscure track, but if you drive Portland or even like, no, that's not fair to say, it's all paint now. Portland, when I drove there, they have these inside curbs that, yeah, they're kinda fun to hop, but they're in the first chicane. If you haven't driven there, it's a super long front straight that they broke up with with a a right-left chicane. And I don't know, they're just it's not fun because you can't really hit them. They just, like, throw the car in the air at, like, 30 miles an hour. Ugh.
I
Not
think
good.
I think Gingerman curbs because they're basically not curbs
I like gingerman curbs because they
except on
make
the
the track.
11th. Yeah, but I don't it just
You want humps though.
I don't want it where it's just more pavement on the outside. Like at least the turn 11 curb, it's like kind of cambered in, so like it catches the car a little bit more. The rest of the curbs around Gingerman, besides turn 10, that one's kind of cambered in a little bit too. But the rest of the curbs at Gingerman are just like little strips of concrete on like the edge where you just use it because it's just more surface for the car to be on. So you're still like right on the edge of the grass flirting with the hole. Like the hole on the outside of turn 6 at Gingerman is like you could probably fit like half of a car into it by like the end of the
Yeah.
season because everyone just it's more pavement, so you just drive out there. But to me, like a functional, like well-intended curb is where you can use it, but not quite all of it. There's like a balance in there, and to me, finding the balance is like the fun part.
I get that. Yeah, I think when you have to hit the curb just right is the most fun. Damn, I love our podcast because we can spend however long that was talking about curbs.
That's kind of wild,
Like, I
huh?
love that. I'm so happy about that.
I think the most satisfying curbs are the curbs that the car on exit like slides into. I think those are the most satisfying if I had to like narrow it down.
Yeah, where the yeah, like, the track wouldn't be the same without it. The
Yeah.
rhythm wouldn't be the same.
Yeah, exactly. Which is probably most tracks.
You know what that made me realize? This is the first weekend, I think, for competition on Mid Ohio with the repave. WRL is going there, and they have that leveled out turn 4.
Oh, we'll have to see how that goes.
I know Lena is racing there this weekend. I'm sure I know other people, but ooh, I'm very curious to hear. If you haven't heard, if you've been to Mid Ohio, I don't know how you would have missed this, but they took all the camber out of turn 4. So it's like a flat turn instead of a banked turn now to take the jump away from China Beach. But I'm curious. I also bet they repaved just that section for a third year in a row. So there's probably 3 ages of pavement now instead of two.
Mm. Well, they're only separated by like a year or so I don't think it's gonna drastically change like the wet line or
Well,
anything.
well, but did you drive turn 1 last year where it had 7 different surface changes?
I only drove it with the Mid Ohio school with Hawk and like
So it,
clapped out TSXs or whatever. So I actually didn't get to drive Mid Ohio last year.
yeah, I guess I see how you could miss that. So in the old turn 1, they only paved turn 1 2 years ago to test the pavement. So turn 1 was like the freshest and everything else was old. And then they repaved everything but turn 1, and then they patched turn 1 in 2 different places. So you went from new, old, new, old, new, old, new 7 times through the entire corner. And even though they were only 1 year old, like the texture was different, the
Oh, it's
grip
gonna
was
feel
different.
weird.
So if they do turn 4 like a different third time, who knows? Who knows?
The curbing at CMP, I think those are good curbs because they do their job. Like especially
I think
the ones on exit of the last turn. Like you can run them over, but like I don't know if you're actually gaining any advantage there.
yeah, I agree with you. What are you up to this weekend?
This weekend I'm going to. I almost mixed up the weekends. Me and Christine are going to hike Mammoth Cave on Saturday, and then on Sunday I'm driving NCM in the FRS. So
Nice.
it's gonna be the first time I've taken my own car on a racetrack. Well, since the Honda Fit, but before that, it would have been the GLTC car.
Yeah. Are you so it's a Saturday or Sunday only
Uh,
track day for you?
yeah, it's Sunday only for me. I just felt like 2 days of HPDEing at NCM in my FRS, I'd probably get kind of bored. So I figured one day would be enough.
I think binge also you're going to binge track day, right?
I forget who the organizer is. I'm just gonna show up. I did sign up.
Okay.
I definitely
I
signed
mean,
up for
Sunday's
it,
the better
but
one. I think Sunday morning will be a mess, and then Sunday afternoon will be like super high quality track time.
yeah, and I'm planning on actually leaving my car there. Probably not at NCM. They were gonna charge me $25 a day to leave my car there.
That's crazy.
I
Y'all
know.
don't do that.
They have all the pavement in the world. Anyways, uh, a friend of the podcast found me a place to put the car, so I'm gonna leave the
Cool.
car there, and then the next week flying out to Gateway and then me and Peter are gonna work on getting Peter as fast as possible at Gateway, and then we were supposed to drive Hedge Hollow, and I was gonna drive it too, just so I could learn Hedge Hollow because I've never done any laps there. But whatever event that we were going to got canceled somehow. So now
Bummer.
we're just gonna go to NCM. So that's why I'm leaving my car there, is because now I get to drive the GT3 RS at NCM. It's gonna be a great 2 weeks. I can't wait.
Hang on. So you drive your car to NCM,
I
you
leave it
fly
there.
home,
Christine's coming with. She's being a trooper. She's driving a separate car down.
you guys are driving a separate car, and then you're flying to Gateway, flying to NCM, getting your car and driving it home.
I'm flying to Gateway, then me and Peter are road tripping to
Road
NCM.
tripping.
Yep. And then after we're done at NCM, Peter's gonna drive all the way back to Florida. I'm gonna hop in that 4S. And then I'm gonna drive to Mid Ohio because I signed up for an HPD at Mid Ohio because I'm like, I haven't driven Mid Ohio in a while.
This is the kind of motorsports chaos I live for. I love it.
Yeah, it's
We're
awesome.
gonna have so much fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward
I don't
to
have
it.
any plans this weekend, but I think I'm going to Wisconsin next weekend because Andy's doing an open house thing slash like event at Golden Sands. If you want to go, if you're in Wisconsin, you can message ASM or Andy and they'll get you in. But I guess I don't have any more driving this weekend either. It's okay.
You wanna come to NCM?
There's something going on this weekend and I'm forgetting. It's not on my calendar, which is stressing me out a little.
We
But I
can
know I have something.
we can throw these Bridgestones that are still at my house in the Mazda and drop them off, and you could take the BRZ out.
We could put them on your BRZ FRS.
No, it won't fit because SSC the wheels are too wide. It will go right into the strut.
Your spirit's not high enough. They'll fit if we make them fit.
We would need like a
I'll get a
40
I'll,
mil spacer for them to fit.
or a Sawzall. I'll just cover your fenders. It'll be
No,
fine.
it's not the fenders. It's the shock on the inside.
I'll cut that too. It'll be
Okay, who needs it? Honestly, you don't need any of
It
that.
was so my tires will fit. Yeah.
Yeah, my tires fit, but now I don't know. It doesn't roll very good because the springs are gone.
Yeah. I'm his mechanic. Oh, mechanic. Yep.
Yep. So, all right, cool. You should come hang out at NCM if you want.
I'll think about it. I have to remember what I'm doing this weekend because now that it's not on my calendar, I'm nervous.
Well, if it turns out
There's something.
if it turns out you need to fill it with something, you could come hiking with Christine and I and go to NCM and yeah, should be fun.
It'd be fun. All right. So maybe see you this weekend. Maybe not.
Maybe not. It depends on how you're gonna read 2B, to be honest.
Read 2B.
Yeah, the pro solo rules. We're gonna hash that out after this podcast gets done.
Yeah. Do you want to roll the outro? I got a thing. Going.
Okay, bye everyone.
All right. Rule 2B. I can't even. I'm so spun up. I love your hair and I hope you win, except Rule 2B. I don't love it and I hope you lose.